So it's been about a week since patch, and I have finally been fully BIS'd out on my bow set for the most part, and I want to share with you how I got my gear so easily, and how you can get best in slot bow as well. A lot of people have been questioning why I've been running Frost, like the Frost Archer build. So if you scroll down here on this website called New World Buddy, you can see all the gear that I have here. And really quickly, what I'll go over is the named items that I have. So I'm running Attuned leather pants, which is the medium leg wear, and I run the Admiral set. The Admiral set is locked in ice harnessing plus elemental version. You can get this with mutator materia off the Gypsum Kiln. If you haven't watched my previous video about the Gypsum Kiln and how that's your best friend, I highly recommend going to watch that. Okay, and I decided to get 1, 2, 3 pieces. It only shows 2 here because this is like the full best in slot, but 3 pieces is fine. You could just get 3 pieces in artifact and you're basically full BIS. And I might be wondering why ice. That's because this gear is essentially best in slot and it's super easy to acquire. Now I know a lot of people are like, oh, you could go nature harnessing, but my build doesn't use poisoning shot, so I don't need nature damage. And nature gear is a pain in the ass to get. There's not really any good nature gear on the market, versus ice being a very kind of niche thing that not many people try and go for, so it's really easy and cheap to get. And like I said, nature is just super hard to get on any of these here, while the Admiral is super easy to farm. So once you get the Admiral set, you do need an extra either crafted or just piece of armor you get from the market, or even from another kind of crafted item. So in game, I was just easily able to find a medium refreshing ice harnessing health piece off the market for about 12k. Super easy and cheap to get. If you can't find something like this, like I said, play what you got. You'll find something in the future. Moving down to the jewelry, I run the Champion's Amulet. You can reforge the Champion's Amulet into having thrust protection instead of shirking and power. That's what I recommend. The same exact thing as this thrust protection would be the Tanglevine Amulet. If you have this, very easily replaceable. They're literally the same exact thing. I think most people have Champ Sammy though. As for the ring, I go for Azoth Crystal Ring. The reason why I go Azoth Crystal Ring is because it has a locked-in Leeching plus Hardy, and I want to get ice damage as a third perk, okay? I only have Burning right now, but I will want ice damage once I reforge this. Another good option is Soul Pollen. I think ice damage is better than thrust, but honestly, they're basically the same exact thing. Like if you have a Soul Pollen, you could just use this instead. It's fine. It's a little bit of damage loss, but not really too much. As for the earring, I really like Life Loop. I think Healthy Toast and Refreshing Toast is super good this patch. And I think Nimble is okay, but I personally am going to go for Regenerating. And that about explains it for all the gear that you can easily get off the Gypsum Kiln. None of that gear I just mentioned you need to go and grind out for. You can literally just craft it on the kiln and you'll be good to go. Moving on to the weapons, we have this Syncretic Bow. This is the literal one item that you need to be able to go and grind out for. So there's these 4 bosses in Brimstone that you have to farm over and over. But I actually don't think it's that bad because a lot of the Syncretic items are best in slot as well, like the Musket as well. Quick little side note, if you want to play Musket Rapier instead, all you have to do for this build is literally just replace the bow with the Musket and you're set. Literally, that's all you have to do. But the reason you want the Syncretic Bow is because it has Keenly Jagged and Frost Attunement. Well, it doesn't lock in Frost Attunement, I had to craft it. But it has locked in Keenly Jagged Enchanted, which is very good perks, okay? And then I added Frost Attunement. The reason why Keenly Jagged is so goddamn important to this build is that it pairs with the finisher so well. Essentially what this means is when you apply bleed, any bleed, it could be Keenly Jagged or Rain of Arrows, you're dealing 15% more damage with your bow and your rapier. It's almost essentially like having both Keenly Jagged and Keenly Empowered on the weapon at the same time. So good this patch. I like it so much because my rapier does so much damage and so does my bow. It just feels really, really good. As for the rapier itself, I haven't upgraded it yet, but I'm going to be putting Refreshing Move. I really like CDR. You can go Keely Empowered if you want more damage, and Omni on the armor. The way to farm the finisher is over here on the new island, the Isle of Zervan. There's an elephant that spawns right on the bottom around here. Took me a couple hours to get, but once you get it, you'll never have to grind again. Like I said, the whole reason behind this set and the reason behind him going ice is because this gear is so easy to acquire. The only 2 you need to farm is this and this. Now you may be wondering why exactly I've chosen Attuned leather pants versus say tumbler shoes or featherweight chest or gin head wrap. And there's one massive reason as to why I play Attuned leather in this build versus any other artifact. The reason being is the attributes, okay? So I can play 350 dex, 150 int, and 150 con. The only reason is this patch, they haven't fixed Magnify, so it cucks like split builds. But in the future, when Magnify gets fixed, it's going to be like very good. So the attributes here are pretty wrong. So some things I want to point out for the attributes specifically and why we play this split for 350 dex, 150 int, 150 con. Starting with dex. 15% crit chance while empowered, amazing, okay? You're always empowered by the roll with the skill tree that we're going to explain later. Weapon swapping with cleanse. This is the most important node on all of the dex tree, okay? If you learn how to use this properly, it's essentially like having a free berserk, and I highly recommend practicing this in PvP scenarios. 10% in power after dodging an attack. It's kind of just like a shirking in power, but you know, it built into the dex tree. It's kind of nice, but we're already in power capped anyways. Now moving on to why we want intelligence. So 5% increase to backstab and random crits. That's essentially 5% vicious for our bow. And then the next one is just 5% damage to targets inflicted with a dot. That could be Keeling Jagged, that could be Rune Glass, whatever. 10% damage to light and heavy elemental attacks, which is a 10% bonus to 40% of our bow damage, which is pretty solid. Like, that's some good damage increase, and it is better than just pumping dex. And last but not least, 15% to elemental damage. Again, this is another buff to our light and heavy attacks. Honestly, all of our attacks that do elemental, but man, does this node buff your explosive arrow so much. Like, I can't even, like, the explosive arrow just pumps. It deals so much damage, dude. Like I said, 150 con is just super important because critical damage is super vital this patch, and you need to have 150 con. Moving on to the bow skill tree here, we are running pen shot, explosive arrow, and rain. Essentially, the most important things to know is that we have rain of arrows. You need all these perks on the left here to get evasive tactics. And for the hunter tree, we have pen shot, explosive arrow. Very simple. Like I said, you need all the way down to the bottom of the explosive arrow because it just deals so much impact damage. The one thing you can change for the bow tree if you'd like is you can take off pen shot for rapid shot. Over here on the right tree for the rapier, we have evade, flesh, and flourish and finish. Now, a lot of people ask me, why aren't you running Tondo or Flurry for the bleed since you're running the finisher, right? And the reason why is because we're not basing this build around a bleed tree. We're basing this around a bow tree, okay? If you get a crit off, you're dealing 50% more damage because of the finisher, and you don't even need Tondo or Flurry because you already have the bleed on and you're already dealing more damage. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to play Grace Tree and kind of like the Duelist Rapier spec as comparative to Tondo or Flurry. So a lot of people actually slot thrust nowadays with how much bows there are and how much like spear and just there's a lot of thrust damage in the game. So as we talked about earlier, 31 thrust is just going to be your go-to as well as opals, right? Which means playing any elemental split is just way too good because that elemental split damage is getting way less negated compared to your thrust damage. So with the total of the Rune Glass of ice damage, the ice harnessing perks, and the ice damage on the ring, it's a 25% increase to ice damage, along with all the perks in our intelligence spec tree, which is another 10% and another 15%. So a total of 50% bonus ice damage is going out on your targets on your light and heavy attacks, and 40% for all your abilities. So another little tip I wanted to talk about is the fact that there is an empower cap in the game. So 50% empower is all you can go to. So it says 25% ice because it's a 25% from the ring, right, which is 7% ice damage, and 20% from the Rune Glass and the ice harnessing perks. They all count towards your empower cap. And as it says for thrust, it's 14.1%. It's supposed to be 15%, but 15% from the evasive tactics, which is a huge uptime. So we're already at a 40% empower, okay? And of course, the honing stone, which is 7%, it takes you to 47%. But if you're not using Honing Stone, you can get Empower Capped easily as well. Like we mentioned earlier, the new perk for gaining 10% Empower after 3 seconds, for 3 seconds after successfully dodging an attack. So basically, you're going to always be Empower Capped, which is why I don't recommend playing like Mortal Empowerment with this build. One small thing I want to add is that you should be playing FIREPOTS on your bar along with the Mana Pot, Regen, and Health / Serum. FIREPOTS are just way too good this patch. It negates muskets, it negates blunderbuss and fire staff. If you have like a tier 2 of these or tier 3, you should practice using these in combat because it's super helpful. Anyways, I hope this build was pretty useful to you, and I'm just going to show a bunch of gameplay, see if you like how the build looks. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like. You can catch me on Twitch playing this bow build. We're trying to push for 100 kills in an OPR game at twitch.tv/adoyan510. You can join my Discord for more information as well. But besides that, peace out. Tried to hide. Oh! He blocked me. What?
I shall speed up the...
Me, dude. I'm so bad.
Oh! Victory!
Oh!
The arena has tasted your blood!
Holy shit, that was close.